All right. Appreciate everybody jumping on the call today. My name is Mike DiMatteo. I'm Sales Executive Manager here at Right Capital. Uh, you're joining the Right Capital and Zocks integration webinar. We're super excited to partner up with Zocks. They provide some really terrific capabilities that, intertwine with Right Capital and your day-to-day process. We do have Jim Hardiman here with us as well from Zocks. He's the Executive Vice President on their product side. So with that, I do appreciate everybody's time today. I'm going to kick it over to Jim to get us started on the Zoc side, and I'll be back with you folks here shortly. Jim?
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike, and thanks to the entire Right Capital team for hosting us and your collaboration to date. Yeah, we're real excited about today's webinar, excited about the partnership, excited what we've built collaboratively as a team, and looking forward to showing it off today. For those that are unfamiliar with Zox, we will spend a little bit of time with some slides and some background. Mike and I have kind of designed the webinar I'll take kind of the first half, talk a little bit about Zox, show Zox. We won't show Zox in totality today. We will just show the main pieces that integrate with Right Capital. And then Mike will come back. He'll go a little bit over Right Capital and then show how easy it is to pick up where Zox leaves off, further develop a plan, and just ultimately saving time with data entry. So Zox has been around. We officially launched in February of 2024. And this number here, 2,000 firms, it's actually over 3,000 firms now, so we need to update those. But we got our start in what was called note-taking or AI assistance, and that's greatly expanded over the last 2 years and doing things like integrations with planning applications such as Right Capital. Next slide, please, Mike. Along the way, we've won a number of awards and industry recognition. So things like Kitz's has recently ranked us #1 in value and momentum. Also, the Oasis Group did a side-by-side deep dive comparison of many of the leading note-taking and AI assistant applications, and we were ranked #1 in product offering across a number of different areas, as well as action item accuracy. So really important benchmark there. And then recently, the Ezra Group ranked us as a top-tier solution, as well as we have one of the highest integration scores coming back, and that's the Ezra Group looking at the quality, the depth and breadth of the integrations that we support. Again, just speaking to the amount of things that we can help with automation for advisors in their day-to-day tasks. Next slide, please, Mike. So why does Zox exist? We believe fundamentally that advisors would like to spend more time meeting with clients, doing analysis, building financial plans in Right Capital, and do a lot less day-to-day administrative or manual work. And so we know that it takes a tremendous amount of time to prepare for meetings, to take notes during meetings, to follow up after those meetings. You're spending a considerable amount of your time answering phone calls, responding to emails, and doing things like form fill and just data entry. And all of that can take away from time with clients. And that's the primary focus of Zox and the automations that we provide. Next slide, please, Mike. So as I mentioned, today we're going to spend most of our time talking about where Zox works well and integrates tightly with Right Capital. But just know, if you're interested in some of the other areas that Zox provides beyond just a meeting assistant and syncing with CRM and your financial planning tools, we do have other capabilities for forms automation, for email automation, for things like document intelligence, so you can upload documents, analyze those documents, and turn that into data, as well as practice management insights and advisor level coaching on your meetings. So we're going to spend most of our time on the meeting assistant today. Some key differentiators for Zox as compared to some of the others that you might be aware of in the marketplace: we are known as a no recording solution. So that means when Zox analyzes the conversation, whether that's a virtual meeting, face-to-face, or an in-person meeting, Zox does not record. It actually analyzes and transcribes in a live fashion and then turns that into meeting notes. And we're also very much known for the breadth and depth and the quality of the data that we capture, as well as our compliance and enterprise controls. So big differentiators for Zocks. And again, if you'd like to learn more about those things, there'll be a QR code here at the end where you can schedule a demo or get signed up for a free trial. So Mike, we go to the next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to now share my screen, and I'm going to show a little bit about Zocks here in person. So you should be able to see my screen here. I've logged into Zocks. I've also logged into RightCapital. Prior to the demo here, I did go ahead and create my demo client up front just to save us a little bit of time. Zocks can create those coming out of a conversation and do that dynamically kind of on the fly. But again, to save time, I went ahead and created the Allen family, or at least Josh here, as a placeholder with some basic information as a placeholder here. So my part of the demonstration will be a little bit about how we work with taking automated meeting notes and how we work with RightCapital, as I mentioned. If you're an existing user of Zocks or an existing user of RightCapital and you want to get set up for a trial account, once you get that established and set up, you're going to come down here to Profile, and you're going to go to the Integrations tab. And this is, again, where you're going to be able to connect Zocks with your phone system, your preferred virtual meeting platforms, your email, your calendar. And you're going to connect to RightCapital under the financial planning area, and there'll be a connect button here. We also have a help file if you need some help on how to do this. So you can come into the help file, search on RightCapital, and this is the full instructions as well as video on how to utilize the integration. So if you're an existing user of both platforms, it's very easy to get started. You're going to come in here and get connected, use the help file. For those that are unfamiliar with Zocks, not only do we integrate with RightCapital, but we also integrate with Orion, Plan, and a whole host of different CRMs, as well as Precise FP. And again, you can use this with virtual meetings in person and face-to-face, in person as well as phone calls. Let's take a look at Zocks' meeting assistant. So we have Josh and Stephanie Allen. We've met with them. We've done a discovery call. This happened to be a Zoom call. And so we've met with them. Zocks ran in the background and analyzed the conversation and then created meeting notes for that conversation. And so when I drill into that meeting, you're going to see some details about that discovery call that I had. I happen to use a discovery call template. We have a bunch of different out-of-the-box meeting type templates, and that helps you define what information you want from a conversation, as well as how you want that information organized. And so you can see here, I've got some high-level data about the conversation. Their contacts in this case, Redtail database. They provided consent to use Zocks as part of the conversation. And I've calculated some various talk times for the various people that were in the meeting. We have an overall kind of sentiment score, and you can drill down into learn more sentiment by participant and even by topic by drilling down further. Below that, you're going to see a couple of tabs here. We have a meeting summary. And again, this is template driven. I didn't type any of this. Nobody had to type any of this information. Zocks just automatically created this data after the meeting was finished. In my template here, I've got things like a meeting purpose. So what was the point of our conversation? What did we learn about the prospect? And because it was a prospect or a discovery call, we're putting emphasis on things like family and occupation, income, assets, liabilities. So we learned about the family. We've captured some birth dates, how long they've been married, children, ages, interest for different colleges that they're looking at. We've learned about their occupation, where they work, some desire around retirement. In this case, the client said that they'd like to retire around 65, but had some uncertainty about their readiness and also wanted to look at up to age 67. So we'll capture that and make sure that's available for Right Capital. We've learned about incomes, life insurance, and the client mentioned some other things like work insurance coverage as well as having 401ks, but no details were provided there. They're going to provide that via documents and other sources. We learned about their goals and priorities. And then we also recapped the discussion around retirement, college, insurance, the fees associated with the financial planning service, and then kind of next steps and data that was provided. We also captured the follow-up meeting. So there was going to be a future meeting that we all agreed to getting together. It's very easy through calendar integration to click on that. It's going to open up your Outlook or Gmail, and you can send an invite for that follow-up meeting. So very easy to get started or get the next meeting in the flow scheduled. Over here on the right-hand side, we've also captured all of the action items that came out of the conversation. So you can see as the advisor, I have a bunch of different action items that I need to take action on as part of the follow-up. And then if there were any specific items for the client, those would be noted here. And then we've also generated a follow-up email. This email, just like the meeting templates, can be totally styled in your tone and voice and style. Very easy to upload example emails, and Zocks will start to mimic your tone, style, and format if desired. Very easy through integration to send that follow-up email. So coming out of a meeting, you can see here, like, you've got very detailed meeting notes, a lot of detail that was captured automatically. You've captured tasks, and you've created a follow-up email. And it's very easy to then take action. All of this it can be edited. So it's a rich text editor. You can make any edits. Think of this as a working draft prior to putting this into your CRM, typically your books and records. You can edit the follow-ups. You can add manual ones. Very easy to work with. From here, I can save it to my CRM, and I showed earlier all the different CRMs that we support. But in this case, I've got Redtail connected, so it's very easy for me to save that. I can sync my contacts. I would pick the primary contact, any other team members, and again, it's going to drop in the notes, and you can save it as a note or an event in your CRM. So very easy to do. Same with the follow-up tasks. You can pick and choose which ones you want to sync. You can edit them. You can assign them to different team members, and then you can associate them and then save them into your CRM. So quite easy to get a lot of information quickly and get the detail into mobilizing the team to get started and on the follow-ups and the next steps, and then send the email. So that's kind of the basics. There's a lot of other details that can be captured. So there's supporting details. We can generate forms and fill out forms off of this information. We start to build a client profile. We'll even give you a scorecard on how you did across 18 different metrics. So a lot of capabilities for coaching there, but we won't spend a ton of time there. Let's take a look now at how it works with Right Capital. So in this case, we've captured all this information, but now we need to get that data into Right Capital. So I've connected to Right Capital, and as you saw, we've got our client set up here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on saving that to Right Capital. I ran this a little bit ago before the webinar. It takes typically anywhere from a minute or two. So just to save time, we ran this a little bit earlier. What you're going to get is across the number of different high-level categories that are available in Right Capital. And you're going to see everything on the left-hand side are what's currently in Right Capital. So since this was kind of a shell and has a lot of the default values, in this case, we've identified some living expenses. You can pick and choose what you want to include or not include. You have total control over this. You can change any of this, and we highly recommend that you review this. While the tool is designed to get it right, if it's not super clear as part of the conversation, you have the ability to overwrite this and change any of these values, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to send over. We've identified all of the retirement expenses. So we talked about 9,000 in post-retirement. We had the college education goal, And we also had the Stan's college funding goal as well. We captured incomes. And so in this case, we captured Josh's salary. We got Stephanie's salary as well as her pension that she mentioned as part of her sources. And then we've captured all of the people that were mentioned, including the primary co-client and the two children setting their dates of birth. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And again, you can override any of this, but I'm going to go ahead and save it. And that will push all of that data over to RightCapital. So I'm going to go back over to RightCapital. I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh. And you can see now that we've updated it with the detail from the meeting. So we've created Josh. We've got his birth date corrected, and you can override, obviously, once it's here. We've created Stephanie as the co-client and the two children. We've created Josh's salary, Stephanie's salary, her pension that she mentioned, and then the default Social Security values. Savings and net worth are two areas that Zocks does not populate, and Mike can talk a little bit about how that works with connecting it to linked data sources and other ways of getting data into the system. And then we also create expenses. So we had the pre-retirement, and then also the goal for the post-retirement was created, as well as the retirement ages and the college goals. So that concludes how the data comes over. Again, if this was an existing plan, so let's say we met with the Allens, a couple months from now, and we got some updates, you would be able to push those and compare kind of what's in RightCapital today versus what did you learn new. You can still, again, pick and choose, and then that data would be updated in RightCapital as a secondary step. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mike.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Jim. That a lot of great stuff there. As Jim had alluded to, over 200 points of data can come over from Zocks into RightCapital. I think from here, he mentioned we definitely want to get with the client in regards to assets that you might custody or
Mhm.
outside held accounts. We're going to see more on that as we get into the program here. But for those of you, certainly not familiar with RightCapital, we are one of the leading comprehensive planning softwares in the space. We're a little over 10 years old at this point, but in those 10 years, we've been by far the fastest growing platform in the space. And part of that success really comes from the ability to have happy advisors, and number one in satisfaction in the space going all the way back to 2017, including up to 2025 based on all the market surveys. A couple items we share here. Uh, this comes from the latest Kitsis report, talking more about the overall satisfaction. Some of the major players in the space, and seeing where that green represents the satisfied advisor, as well as a lot of the different capabilities that we offer in comparison to the other programs in the space. And even though we've had an accelerated amount of growth, to the right, this comes from the T3 survey. The majority of folks that are considering financial planning softwares are also considering RightCapital. So I think while we've had some great success, we continue to grow that momentum moving forward. Why is that? RightCapital as a platform, we offer a really innovative approach. And I think we want to try to take things that can be complicated and make it as easy to understand for clients as possible. So areas that we might cover, interactive retirement planning, Social Security optimization, even things that you don't typically see like student loan and debt management within, different planning softwares, and a whole lot more. This just scratches the surface. So, for now, what I'm going to do is jump back into an actual demo of RightCapital. So we have Josh and Stephanie Allen here, the same clients that Jim was able to import all that pertinent information. The next steps from an advisory perspective, as I alluded to, would be to link up any custodians, to incorporate any assets that you manage. We can then work with clients to integrate outside held accounts. Those can be added manually, but We do have an account aggregation platform that links up to 15,000 different institutions across the country that allows clients to sync up their held away accounts and ultimately create a live balance sheet. Provides a great value add for the client to see everything in one spot. And from an advisory perspective, not only does it save you time, but it's always a great opportunity to identify those held away assets that we might be able to, manage for the client in the future. One of the things that we really like to focus on are the visuals. So for Josh and Stephanie, just a reminder, they're early 50s, a couple kids that are in and approaching college. They make just over $200,000 combined annually and are really looking to, retire ideally at 65, but that's where we can have some conversations around, does that make sense? I'm showing you our blueprint here. So within the program itself, a lot of different modules. This blueprint is a one-page report that you can customize for clients. It provides a map of any assets and liabilities. It's all broken out by ownership and color coding. We give you, a simple timeline of client goals. And then, of course, a summary of any income, expenses, savings that we're accounting for within the plan. So much of the feedback we've had over the years has been, how can we simplify messaging to the client? And feedback from advisors is where a lot of our development really comes from. Now, with that, as you might expect from a planning solution, the retirement is really going to be the heart of what we offer. And so specific to the retirement, we have our retirement analysis, which I always deem to be the first part you want to dig into with the client. We'll generate Monte Carlo projections here. We use all that information that was collected within the fact finder from Zocks to run projections to see what type of viability the clients have, from a long-term outlook. So within this, we run all of our, projections off the current plan, which is what we know right now. And these guys are actually in decent shape to start. Now, from my perspective, I'd like to see them, up over 80, 85% on the probability. So we can work within the proposed plan interactively to see if we can get them there with some small changes. So in this case, maybe, we're gonna, say we're retiring these guys at 65, but maybe in their, monthly retirement, we can, drop that down to $8,500 a month. We can bump up a couple of their contributions. Maybe I go to 12% on Josh's 401k, 10% on Stephanie's. And if I come over to the Social Security, right now, based on what we've talked to them about, we're going to take it at 62, which is fine, but you also have the ability to show alternatives. You can customize timing options. If I go with something like the optimal, hit enter to rerun the scenarios, it's going to show you what the impact of that adjustment would be right there. So right off the bat, we're in terrific shape. But, maybe we want to take it a step further. One of the things that we offer within the program is a little more of a behavioral conversation. So what I mean by that is there's a retirement spending option that we default to as inflation adjusted. If we think about that, we're going to say, okay, these guys are going to spend $8,500 a month. We're going to inflate that by whatever inflationary rate you want to set. And it's going to be more of that straight line expectation. But we know behaviorally that people don't typically spend money in that fashion. So one of the cool things that we can show here is retirement spending within the plan. This is taken into account healthcare costs, housing expenses, taxes, etc. But with the retirement expense, you see more of that straight line projection. It's just going up by inflation year over year. I saw a small reduction here. I show Josh passing away at 81, which is why you see that. But I might want to talk to them about a more realistic approach. Maybe for these guys, they've talked about traveling more early on. Maybe they hit their mid to late 70s. They're not traveling as much. We want to see a little bit of a reduction in expenses. Mid to late 80s, they're not going out to eat as much, so on and so forth. So under the retirement spending, what if I went with this staged approach? In the space, a lot of people call it the go-go, slow go, no-go. But what's the advantage? You see a reduction in total spending. If we focus in on the retirement, we now have that staged approach, that really aligns a little bit more with how they would be spending money as they get older. And ultimately, why is that an important part of the conversation? When we go back to the probability, we've just now bumped up our probability from 86 to 94%. So in essence, we're showing them we're able to use these things that you might already be doing, tie them into the overall concept of what we're planning for you, and show you how that could be a benefit long term. Well, the probability is in great shape. So Stephanie might say here, maybe I want to retire at 63, which would align with Josh, with him being a couple of years older. So, oops, we can test that out right here. See if that's something that's attainable. It'll recalculate all the projections. It brings it down to 90%. We're in terrific shape still. So I'm comfortable with, that conversation. And I think the clients are happy from a standpoint that not only can we get them to retire at 65, but in Stephanie's case, 63. So this is a really interactive component that you can use to work on different projections with clients. But one of the more unique features that Right Capital is known for is the tax side of the equation. So the tax strategies is the most popular part of the program. Within the tax strategies, this really looks at the best ways that we can use tax efficient withdrawal strategies to really optimize the client's tax savings. For example, this is their taxable income. If we made a couple changes here to their distribution sequence, maybe looked at some Roth conversions, ultimately you'll see an update here, and we're projecting about $560,000 in tax savings that would ultimately be passed on to their heirs. Just as importantly, though, instead of you having to click through and figure all this out, the strategies option solves it for you. So it's going to look at all the different strategies, identify the best ways for us to distribute the assets, and make sure that we're achieving the most in tax savings for the clients long term, and they're keeping the most that they make. Another unique option is our tax analyzer. Within the tax analyzer, you can actually upload tax returns. The system will scan out the information that was uploaded from the returns that you included. And we can then easily use that information to identify opportunities, to see if we could secure some more tax savings for the client. So within this comparison, you'll see the information that was taken from that upload here to the right. You're able to use this edit button to include anything that might be appropriate to talk about from a line item perspective, but I'm just saying, let's assume we're doing $45,000 in Roth conversions next year. Are we comfortable with the impact to our taxes, and the expected $10,000 tax bill? Are we impacted from a threshold perspective? And you can dig into more details as necessary. So from a tax perspective, I think those are really unique within the space, but something I hear a lot of advisors utilizing with clients is the stress test. So as we know, clients get concerned over things they'll see on the news, or things that we might be afraid of happening down the line. And there's a variety of different things that you can use interactively here. For example, our baseline is using that Monte Carlo projection that we saw previously in the retirement analysis. But if a client's concerned about the equity markets dropping, Social Security being reduced, healthcare costs going up, you can run any of these different scenarios to see if the market were to drop by 30%, how does that potentially impact our long-term plan? Asset return expectations. I mentioned the healthcare. I think the healthcare is a great example, that we can show to clients where, if we do have a major concern about healthcare increases and it's going to hurt the plan, maybe there's opportunity to explore some other insurance options that, we might be able to evaluate with the client. And for those more analytical folks, the cash flows is going to get you into all of the specifics. There's a couple different viewpoints that you have. I always like to start with the more detailed picture of the money in, the money out. All of this can be exported, but it gives you that that full picture of all the expectations from the beginning to the end of the plan. We know clients tend to be a little more visual. So for those folks, these cash flow maps are a really nice alternative. It's another one-page report that we can run. It gives you a timeline which we can set that shows what money's expected to come in, expenditures we might be anticipating. If you need more information around anything, you can always, easily drill down and get more specifics. The last item that I had on my agenda, one of the most popular reports that we offer is this one-page snapshot. The snapshot itself is fully customizable. All of these tiles are coming from different areas of the program. But for those clients that just want to know, are we on track? Want something easy to digest, aren't necessarily looking for a 50-page plan. This is a really popular report to be able to provide to those folks. In fact, you can create different templates for clients, make things easier to set it up and distribute that, as necessary. So, with that, that should hopefully give you a little bit more of an idea on some of Right Capital's core planning capabilities, and features. If you'd like to learn more about the offering, get a little bit more into detail and how it might, apply to your practice with some of the other, features like the risk assessments, insurance modeling, estate planning, all that good stuff. Always happy to, set up a one-on-one demo with the team. But with that, I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint here. Again, just summarizing why Right Capital. I think flexibility is the key to a lot of these conversations. You can create things that are simple, you can create things that are complex, but every client's going to be a little different, so we can curtail the conversation to meet their needs. The real-time collaboration, and ultimately taking a more advanced conversation and making it easy for the clients to understand. Again, feel free to reach out to us, sales at Right Capital, to schedule some time. But with that, I'm going to hand it back to Jim on the last slide here, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. And I already see a lot of QA questions, and some of the questions are just about data coverage. So we threw together this slide. So as Mike mentioned, the integration, we sync a little over 200 fields to Right Capital. So we are taking full advantage of every field that Right Capital makes available as part of their APIs. And so we are writing to the full data set. So that's been a big part of the work we've done over the last couple months to support that. Specifically, we're covering 4 particular areas. That's in the contact and family area. So I showed creating client, co-client, and children. We support across income, salary, Social Security, pensions, loans, bonus, and the like, expenses, and goals. And this data is also available if you go to, I talked a little bit about the Help Center article in Zocks, but if you go to the Right Capital Help Center article, it's a basic repeat of the Zocks one plus the detail around data coverage. So all of that is there. And as I mentioned, the 2 areas that we're not currently writing to is in savings and net worth. And that's not available for us through the APIs. The way that happens with Right Capital is through things like linking accounts and account aggregation, or manually entering those assets. So that's the full data set.
Terrific. So you're just looking at the Q&A. I'll pick off a couple questions specific to Right Capital, and Jim, I'll put it back to you to see
Sure.
some Zocks options. But specific to Right Capital, one question was, can the client login show the blueprint upon login? And the answer is absolutely. So within the setup and the framework of being able to share the information with the client, you can pick and choose what order things are set up in, and you can have that blueprint set up so when they do log in, it's the first thing they see. It gives them the capability to link accounts, etc. There's a question around, does tax strategies incorporate IRMA? And the answer is yes. So definitely one of the unique features with Right Capital. We build in all the tax laws. As a part of that, you can use a detailed tax estimate that's going to track the client's income levels over time and incorporates IRMA. You're able to see all that, work with the clients on the impact that may have. And we had another question before I kick it over to Jim. I don't want to steal all the time. How does
You're on a roll. Yeah.
how does how does Right Capital's tax module compare to Holistiplan? And it's a great question I get almost every day. So what I always tell folks is Holistiplan is an absolutely terrific platform. They can do a lot of really granular projections. With us, we're gonna take that kind of key component where you can upload the tax docs, manipulate them to see the what ifs. And that's what we've heard from advisors that they're using the most. So, with any type of platform, I always recommend to folks if you're using it to its fullest extent, Holistiplan is going to be a great complement to what you get within Right Capital. If you're only scratching the surface, there might be an opportunity there for you to consolidate options. But again, they do a lot of really cool stuff. It's just a matter of how you're personally using that platform and what you're getting out of it compared to what we can offer. But I'll pause there and Jim, let you take a couple questions.
Sure. Mike, why don't we go to the next slide too, just while we're
Sure.
answering some of the questions.
Yep.
So just we want to, if you're interested in following up with, either Zox or Right Capital, Mike and I left some QR codes here. It's a great way to connect with either of our teams to schedule a deep dive demo. I know I breezed through quite a bit today, and we're happy to do a deep dive with your particular tech stack and your particular firm and workflows. So happy to do a follow-up demo and talk more intently about how the integration works. The other thing too, I want to make note just while we're answering and wrapping up is that we do have a discount code. So if there's any existing Right Capital users that want to give Zox we have a free 14-day trial. So you can go to our website and sign up for that, or you can book a time and our team can help you with that. But there is a discount code for you to get 10% off of your Zox subscription, just based on the partnership with our friends at Right Capital.
Terrific. Terrific. And then, just from a Zox perspective, I know there were a couple questions in here. I was reading through is there anything in there that you saw that we did not answer, Jim, that you wanted to address?
I can take, it looks like Rachel, we'll just start at the top of the list. I can hit a couple of these. Rachel had some questions about um, uh, can admins connect their advisor accounts to their Zox and Right Capital accounts? The answer is no for admins. The way you connect your account from Zox to Right Capital is you're going to actually enter your credentials, your username and password. We use what's called OAuth 2.0. So the advisor needs to put in their Right Capital credentials. That is encrypted. It's not something that Zox can see, but Zox piggybacks on top of that. So when we call into the Right Capital platform to push data, we're piggybacking off of the advisor's credentials. So there's nothing that we can do, Zox can do in Right Capital that the advisor couldn't do using those same credentials. So the answer is you do need your advisors to connect accounts. And then there was a related question from our friend Anne. Hi, Anne. Good to see you. It's been a while. She's asking about how to sync and connect contacts. I kind of blew through that, Anne, a little bit just because I had done a previous connection to save us time. But when you're pushing from Zox into Right Capital, you can do two things. The screen will prompt you if the connections, if your client already exists in Right Capital and you're pushing to Right Capital for the first time, there's a radio button that you can select from existing clients. All you have to simply do is it queries Right Capital. It'll show all the clients in Right Capital. You click on the one that you're connecting to. So not only will it then establish the connection, but then the data will be pushed over. And there's also another way to do it. If you go into the contact screen in Zox and you go into the gear icon, you can click on that, and you can also do them, kind of premeditated or prior to the push. You can look up those contacts and do manual mapping. So that's another way you can do that. And please reach out. You know how to find me, and I'm happy to send you a quick loop on that. Let's see, what else is on the list here? We have a question from, it looks like Jennifer from Mass Mutual. So that is correct. Right now, Mass Mutual does not allow Zocks to connect to any other application, third-party applications, but we are working with the Mass Mutual team to approve those and open those up. Um, Annie Chen mentioned that she doesn't see the integration option on her account. Annie, let us know if you might be associated with Mass Mutual or another firm that hasn't approved integrations. We can help you with that. Um, Chris White had a question on difference between Wealthbox and what I showed with Redtail. Chris, that's correct. Redtail has the ability to notify other team members as well as groups, and that is not something that's supported Wealthbox currently. Sage asked about how it works with future meetings and new data. So Sage, I showed obviously a discovery call and going into a blank or an empty shell for Right Capital. But if this was an existing plan and you were having like a quarterly check-in and you were then wanted to update the older or plan in Right Capital, you can still have your check-in meeting, your quarterly review. Zox will take its notes, and then when you go to push to Right Capital, we'll actually load the existing data on the left-hand side for Right Capital, what's already in there, and then what we identified as something new. And again, you can pick and choose which updates you want to initiate and push over into Right Capital. So you have total control over how that works. James had a question on Zoom. So Zox does not record. So you're not turning on Zoom recording. Zox actually attends as a participant. So it'd be another, to your question, another square or another participant on the call. And you have some control over what gets you can put up a audio. There's an audio message, a visual message, or you can just rely on visual, audible consent with the client to use Zox. So a couple different options there. Um, what other ones do you see, Mike, that you think we should try and tackle? I know we're coming up
Oh,
close on time
yeah.
here.
I know we have a lot of great questions in the chat. Anything we don't get to, we will certainly follow up and make sure that, you're getting your answers post the webinar. But, I think with that, maybe it might be a good time to wrap up the call and we can certainly, touch base with anybody who had questions that were unanswered, thereafter the webinar call. Does that sound okay with you, Jim?
Yeah, sounds great. I mean, we've got definitely a number to follow up on. We can do those offline.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate everybody taking the time out of your day and attending the webinar today. On the Right Capital side, we are super excited to be working with Zox. As everybody sees, there's so much great information that that Zox can help you obtain with your clients in an easy format. And it just makes the data collection, much more streamlined on the Right Capital side. Ultimately, the idea, as Jim mentioned earlier, how can we all save you some time? Put more
Yep.
time back in your day to meet with your clients and do that stuff that drives revenue as opposed to the that daily work that nobody likes to do. But
That's
you
right.
know certainly, again, appreciate everybody's time. We will follow up to additional answers we didn't get to today, but please don't hesitate to reach out to Right Capital, to Zox, and we're always happy to jump on one-on-one calls with you folks and help you out moving forward. But that will
Thank you,
conclude the
Mike.
webinar. Jim, thank you, and we'll all
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.